Hey everyone, Mr. Wallows here. Today we're going to talk about the Zapatista Uprising, what it was, and what may have motivated it. The EZLN Uprising. On January 1st, 1994, in a surprise attack, armed rebels wearing ski masks and bandanas took over six towns in the Mexican state of Chiapas. The rebels were members of the Zapatista Army of National Liberation, often shortened to EZLN for its acronym in Spanish. As the EZLN occupied the civic centers, they vandalized government buildings and released over 200 people from prison. Others burned military posts and occupied ranches of large landowners. An estimated 200 to 300 people died in the conflict between the EZLN and the Mexican army before a ceasefire was declared on January 12th. Inspiration. The EZLN took its name from Emiliano Zapata, a leader of the Mexican Revolution, and his followers, the Zapatistas. The Zapatistas of the revolution fought to return land that rich landowners had seized from the indigenous peasants. Members of the EZLN were also referred to as Zapatistas, but they were not the same army that Emiliano Zapata led in the 1910s. Chiapas. The EZLN uprising occurred in Chiapas, the southernmost Mexican state. Despite being rich in natural resources, it is one of the poorest Mexican states. Chiapas has a tropical climate and is known for its jungles and classic Maya ruins. The EZLN. A small group of guerrilla fighters founded the EZLN in 1983. By the early 1990s, it had more than 40,000 members backing an army of 3,000 fighters. The vast majority of its members were Maya. NAFTA. On the day of the EZLN's uprising, January 1st, 1994, coincided with another historic event, the day that the North American Free Trade Agreement, usually referred to as NAFTA, took effect. NAFTA was an agreement signed by Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Among other things, NAFTA would make it easier for large American and Canadian companies to sell and manufacture goods in Mexico. Opponents of NAFTA argue that making small producers in Mexico compete against large corporations would worsen Mexico's poverty. For example, small corn farmers in Mexico would have to compete against large American corn farmers who receive support from the United States government. Economic context. The Free Trade Agreement allowed other big changes to the Mexican economic policy. In 1992, President Carlos Salinas de Gortari changed the Mexican Constitution to allow communal lands that were originally provided and protected by the government to be sold to private individuals and companies, including foreigners. He also removed a limit on a land how much land a corporation could own. These changes ended the land reform that was won by the Mexican Revolution of 1910. Aftermath of the uprising. Whether the EZLN's uprising was a success or failure is hotly debated to this day. On the one hand, the uprising brought national and international attention to the plight of Mexico's low-income rural workers and indigenous communities. Many believe the uprising was responsible for big changes in Mexico's elections. On the other hand, the EZLN won few of their demands. In 1996, the EZLN and the Mexican government signed an agreement to revise Mexico's constitution and laws, but the federal government has not implemented the agreement, causing the EZLN to abandon talks with the government. Furthermore, paramilitary groups alleged to have ties to the Mexican government have killed over 300 Zapatistas. Influence and legacy. While the extent to which the uprising succeeded is debatable, it is clear the EZLN captured the imagination of thousands across Mexico and around the world. International solidarity networks formed to support the EZLN, aided by the growing availability of the Internet of the 1990s. The flag and slogans of the EZLN became common in leftist protests throughout Mexico, even with no Zapatistas present. Feminists and indigenous groups in Latin America and beyond found inspiration in the EZLN, which has many women members, including top military commanders. To this day, the EZLN remains armed and claims to control a large territory in Chiapas. They have their own schools, health clinics, and courts. The uprising has also had far-reaching effects on political life in Mexico. Central historical question. The EZLN uprising was the first guerrilla unrest Mexico had seen in 20 years, and scholars continue to debate what specifically motivated it. Some have argued the uprising was a continuation of long-standing movements, while others have argued more immediate issues were the main cause. Still, others have debated whether local, national, or international forces were most decisive. In our exploration of the Zapatista uprising, we will explore textbooks. We will explore how textbooks have told the history of the EZLN uprising and analyze historical documents to investigate what motivated the Zapatista uprising of 1990.